we'll continue. So today I'm particularly excited because, like Lav said, we're typically very focused on women. A couple of our programs, when we do the career series, things to do with business, it's open for young men also to join. But typically, our meetings are just for us girls, right? And so today we're excited that we've got our gentleman joining us again in celebration of Father's Day, Father's Month, Men's Month. Men, this is your month, and so we're here to celebrate with you. And personally, why I do Propel is because I feel that role modeling is very important. And in today's world where we have so many voices, so many theories, so many ways of doing things, it's good to keep young people on track, to remind ourselves of godly precepts that have always yielded the best results. And so this is us creating that opportunity to learn from people who have gone ahead of us. And the speakers we have on board today, amazing people, not just people who do the talk, but actually also walk the talk. And so today, the young man's playbook for a fulfilling family life. And today we're going to be focusing primarily on becoming a great husband, becoming a better husband. And the next week, God willing, when we meet again, we'll focus on becoming a great father. Okay? Okay.
Yes.
Oh, great, great. I just want to check that you can hear me well. So introducing our speakers, I'll start with Mr. Emmanuel Seriam Duku. Yes, good. Well, I'm not seeing your beautiful wife very well. Seriam, you've ordered the camera. That's good, that's good, that's good. So welcome, welcome. So
sorry, mute. Hi, good everybody. How's everybody?
Great. Belinda, hi.
Hi, Elom. It's been a while. Great to hear you.
It's been a while. I hope you're both doing well.
Yes, by God's grace.
So Emmanuel Seriam Duku is an accomplished pharmacist, dedicated leader, and devoted family man. He's a proud Muba and has a Bachelor of Pharmacy degree from KNUST, followed by an MSc in International Business from UG Business School, Legon. He has spent over 15 years in the pharmaceutical industry and is currently serving as the capital equipment and cath lab therapies lead for Medtronic in Ghana. He also co-chairs the African Diversity Network in Medtronic, driving business growth and promoting diversity and inclusion. So those of you who don't know Medtronic, please Google it. It's a multinational medical equipment, right? Medical equipment.
Yes.
So please check him out. Beyond his professional accomplishments, Emmanuel is a proud husband of one wife, as he's happily married to the wife of his youth and the love of his life, Mrs. Belinda Sena Duku. So Belinda is also an amiable and accomplished registered nurse and a warm-hearted wife and mother. Belinda has a BSc in nursing and an MSc in clinical leadership and management from the University of Ghana. She has selflessly served in healthcare for over 15 years and is currently the principal nursing officer at Mana Mission Hospital. Both Emmanuel and Belinda are music lovers who serve faithfully in the music department of their local church. Their marriage has beautifully blossomed over 14 years, and they are proud parents of 3 awesome children, and their family is a truly beautiful one to behold and inspires many young people. For those of you who follow them on Facebook, if you don't, go check them out. So please, a warm welcome. You can at least unmute, give them a wave. We are happy to have you. Thank you so much for making the
Thank you.
time.
Thanks for having
Thank
us.
you.
Thanks for having us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And so the next person, who is my big brother from work, Patrick, we used to sit side by side at work. He's currently back in the US, so he's working. Unfortunately, my remote colleague now, but it's a relationship I cherish a lot. Patrick Jan Sampson serves as a principal consultant at G Vernova Consulting Services, where he leverages his extensive knowledge in the control of wind, solar, and energy storage assets to provide technical advisory services to diverse clients in solving the challenges of interconnecting renewable and thermal power generating assets into electric grid. I work with Patrick, and I can tell you that I don't fully understand everything he does. Very smart man. So those of you who are interested in that area, please do check him out on LinkedIn and try to connect with him. Patrick is married to Afa for 17 years. They live in Atlanta, Georgia, with their 3 beautiful daughters. Beyond his nerdy professional life, Patrick enjoys traveling with his family and is passionate about mentoring young adults as they unravel the treasures that God has placed in them. Please, let's welcome Patrick. Let's welcome him. So thank you. Thank
Yes,
you, Patrick.
Angelo. Thanks for inviting me and having this opportunity to interact and share ideas. Really appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So yes, we'll get right into it. So becoming a great husband, and our focus will be on one, avoiding common mistakes that men make in marriage, loving and leading your wife. Oh, host is asking me to start my video. I've started the video. It's all black. I can't deal with technical issues today, so please bear with me. The video is on, but I don't know what went wrong with it. I'll try to fix it maybe in the break. So loving and leading your wife, and then avoiding common mistakes that men make in marriage, all with the goal of, as a man, leading your family and leading your wife to have a great marriage. And I believe that women in general have had a lot of good examples, intentional training that goes into preparing the woman for marriage, whether from Christian backgrounds or non-Christian backgrounds. Throughout culture, there's always been some focus or some kind of training, especially targeted at women. And we believe that it's important that men, as leaders of the home, are also better equipped to lead their family. So starting off with that, Patrick, what would be your initial thoughts on how a young man should approach the subject of marriage? Because if you have 2 people coming into marriage, and there are different models of marriage, the Ghanaian marriage, the Western marriage, there are all kinds of mixes. Where do we even start from? What is marriage about? What should be the young man's goal to, this is the model family, and this is the pattern I want to model after? Where should we start from?
Okay, thanks. And thanks, Ariam. It's great for us to be sharing this opportunity to talk. So when it comes to marriage, and I'm sure we are all Christians that we are on this call, so then I always, every time that you go to a house that is being built, you find the carpenters, you find everyone looking at the blueprint just because they want to establish a common ground of building a house. So anytime that a topic of marriage comes, starts with what is God's blueprint for marriage. So I'll start from the fact that God has created, we didn't just come into the world and decided that, oh, it's a good idea, let's start getting married. God established it. So then I'll start more with why did God establish marriage? And I have more of 3 purposes. And before I get into the details of it, there are going to be a lot of ideas that are going to be shared. And one thing is, I'm on the marriage journey with Ifua. And we are working and learning day in and day out. And God is, and the Spirit is always sanctifying us and transforming us to be who we are. So there are things that I'm going to say, share ideas I'm going to talk about. It has no indication that I'm an expert in it. I've grown up in it. But it's just that it's something that I've learned over the years. And also, there are some things that I'm sure folks are maybe going to say, oh, I don't agree with it. It's okay. I think they are, but the whole thing is always we are going to look through the screen of the Bible. So I think that is one fundamental thing that I want us to establish whilst we get into these discussions. So I think to the question, the first and foremost, I think we're created in God's image, as it says in Genesis 1:26 and 27. That kind of establishes that God created us in his image. And being image bearers, we have one responsibility. We're reflecting God's image, God's character in this world. So then he created the marriage relationship because there's a relationship that we have with God. And now he's created a marriage relationship between man and woman. So then we demonstrate how the relationship that he's having with us is supposed to be seen. And beyond that, with myself and my wife, we've always seen marriage as a ministry, not so much as it's a great, because that's a point that people are in the crucible of difficulties. So we see it as a great place that people get to go deeper and figure out what God has for them in this life. So the first thing is we are image bearers, and God uses marriage to make us great image bearers. The other thing is we complete each other and experience companionship in marriage. Where does the whole idea of companionship start from? Same, truly from Genesis. In the Bible, God said, God made all creation. There was one thing that he saw that wasn't good and felt like he needed to add some more to it, and that was the creation of man. And it says he was going to create a helper for man, and that's Genesis 2:18. So then, inherently, as we are formed, we always need a companion. We need someone in order to establish and do whatever God has established for us. So that's the second thing. And the third thing is he created us for creation. We will multiply, and by multiplying, we are multiplying kids and children that are going to continue with the good work that he's doing on earth. So I think next week you're going to be getting into parenting. I think there's going to be more things to talk about there. So fundamentally, I think those are the three blueprints. But then I always kind of, we've gone through the journey of marriage for the past 17 years, we've experienced friends with marriages. The whole question comes is, why do people deviate from this blueprint? And people get into marriage with their own form of a blueprint. And then once we get into building that, what happens? We all have the stories of heartbreak and all sort of disappointments to it. And what I've noticed, and is more, I'll share this, and some of it are going to be reiterated during our discussions, is going to be we come in with we have our needs that we bring into our marriage, and we come into the marriage with the mindset of I'm hoping my needs get met, and most often than not, even the best of husbands and wives that have the best of intentions, because of our sinful nature, guess what? We are not able to fulfill those needs, and without fulfilling these needs, what happens? There's disappointment, and then we react in various forms. So throughout this discussion, some of our reactions towards our unexpected goals and needs that we take into marriage, I'm going to share some of those, and then what we expect marriage to be based on how we take our needs to God, and then through that are able to minister to our spouses through that. So I think that is just an intro to the fundamentals of the main tenets of marriage and how we approach it. Yeah. So that's a long, winding answer, but hopefully I build on that as we go on with the discussion.
No, thank you, thank you, thank you. So always start with the blueprint. And what stuck to me was that when you want to start a building, you start with the blueprint so that everybody knows what we're doing. The architect who had the design in mind, whether it's a civil engineer, the mason, the electrician, everybody is looking to one same blueprint. So we are all going towards one same target. So it's similar for us in marriage to start at the point of what are we going for? And so there must be alignment. That's what I picked up from. There must be alignment on what the blueprint is. And that blueprint, you tell us, is from God's word. Sarah, Belinda, please, anything else to add on that?
Hi, thanks so much. I believe Patrick gave a very extensive answer, and like you said, I mean, we are all still figuring it out. I mean, it's 14 years, but you still got to figure it out on a daily basis, right? So, Patrick, I'm right, right? Hello, right. But I believe that one of the things I like is how, when God created the earth, and the Bible says that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was the God, and the Word was God, and everything was created, and nothing was created that was created without God, right? So that means that for everything that is, so it's one spirit that created everything. That's why we can use analogies. Because if you use an analogy of anything, it means it's the same spirit. You get my point. I don't know if I'm speaking sense. Okay. So now, if God says that man should love his wife like Jesus loves the church as his bride, it means that marriage is something God even aligns with. Okay. Because as you grow up, boy meets girl, you're always going to love somebody, you're always going to like somebody. But at some point, you need to take a decision who you want to spend your life with. And that's where most people find difficult, and most people find tough. So to me, it's something which is biblical right from the beginning. God created male and female, later created man, and then created woman. All right. And the Bible says that as you grow up, you are going to leave your father and your mother, you are going to cleave to your wife. It means marriage was established right from the beginning, and there's a lot of biblical fact to that. So we'll not bore you to that. So once that is done, it means you're all just going to follow great examples, the examples we've seen, good or bad. And now you have to make choices what you want to make when it comes to you. So again, Elom, I hope I'm answering your question. What's the question again? I hope I don't want to deviate. Let's come back.
No, it's fine. I mean, what should a young man look out for? What should be the focus when you're getting into marriage?
Exactly. So now that's the biblical basis of this. So now as you are growing up, now you need to find out who really represents your values. And I believe that the choices we all make are a sum total of our beliefs and our values. Who you spend your time with. That's why we say that show me your friend and I'll show your character. So show me your wife and I'll show your character. So it's important the person who you want to settle down with shares the same values as you do, shares the same viewpoints or similar, and has the same beliefs and also has the same vision for life, or somebody who's willing to align with you. So it's quite an expansive thing, because now it's two lives coming together to be one. But as much as possible, I believe that this person should be someone who shares with you a lot of values. Because I'm not going to necessarily talk the Christian marriage. Of course, the Christian marriage is important, but we see a lot of Christians marrying, and some way, somehow it falls apart. So it's not just about your beliefs or your religion, but it also has to do with a lot of shared interest and shared visions and shared commitments. And once you're able to work that out, or once you see that person shares those, it's a big step forward in your journey, in your life journey. And I also want to finally say that it's a life journey. Once you get on this, you need to know that it's a long-term commitment. It's not a video game you end after one life dies. It's one chance. You have to make sure that you are making all the right choices. That helps you to have a long-term successful relationship. All right. So that will mean that I'm sure in the next questions that are coming, we'll be talking about what some of the things you need to do to make sure that your relationship stays fresh, it stays fun, and it's not something you endure, but something you absolutely enjoy.
Thank you. And I think you leaned into my next question a bit about the shared values. And I get your point about, you see some Christian marriages that are failing, and you see some who are not really Christians, but they seem to have a marriage that's working. And part of it really, it's the alignment. If you're aligned in a lot of ways, it helps to build that marriage. So I got that point out of that. And what I'll ask though is, so what do you look out for? Because before you even become a great husband, I believe that a lot depends on the material you're starting with, the two people you're starting with, and you talked a bit about finding the right person. Because I think, no matter how great a person you are, if you marry a certain kind of person, I mean, it's almost like a cross you have to bear, right? It will be hard. The analogy of maybe, putting one good, Jesus said you can't put a new wine in old wineskin, or you take one piece of rotten meat, you put it in your soup or stew, it spoils everything. So I know you mentioned some of the things like alignment in a lot of the things that you do in your vision and all of that. What are some of the other things that a young man who wants to have a great marriage should look out for before taking that decision and settling that this is the person? What are some
Okay.
of the things you should look out
Well, I'll look out for what I looked out for again, because my my choices may not be your choices. For me, I'll say first, I just needed someone who believed in the God I believed in, which was cornerstone to me. For me, again, it was never about where the person came from. Even though if both of us spoke the same language, again, it made life easy because you can all align. So the cultural background is important. Another thing that was important to me was your educational background. Were you somebody who could keep both of us talking, and were you going to have a lot of common things to talk about? And then I also wanted to see how you served in church, or how you treat other people. One of the things I always look out for when I make long-term friendships is how people treat people who can't do much for them. For example, if you go to the market, how do you talk to Kayaye, for example? Now, even the vice president is liking Kayaye, So, so before, or let me say, how do people treat security men? How do people treat people who treat us at the bar? It's so important to me how you treat people. It just says a lot of things about how you are inside. And then generally, who you really are, how we flow. Babe, what did I look out for in you? Tell me. She's there. You can see.
So just to add to what Seram said, I think that sometimes we pretend we are not seeing certain things when it's so clear. So again, he talked about character, he talked about attitude. I mean, I looked out for how this man treated my family was important. I have a lot of siblings, and I had a lot of stepmoms growing up. I came from a polygamous home, but it wasn't an issue for Seriam at all. It was a worry for me that I was worried the man would be worried I came from a polygamous home. But then he fitted in so well, and he even helped me with some of the, coming from an polygamous home, you may grow up with certain ideas in your head, but he really helped me with it. He accepted my family, his character, and his love for God. Seram taught me how to tithe, and I always say it. He came into my life and he said, look, you have to, these are the things, these are the principles, and you have to do this, your offering, your tithe. It was important. I mean, to the extent that my tithe book was examined before I got married to this man by his dad. It was a requirement. Yes, I mean, that's how rigorous the process was. So again, like you said, and we shared similar interests. I mean, I'm a talker. He loves to talk, and I love to talk about, like, I like to be updated on issues. So that we can always have a conversation. So I looked out for somebody I could talk to easily and not struggle to make conversation with. And then his character, his attitude, and his friends. I looked out for his friends. It was very important to me because I knew that if he had certain kind of friends that had habits I did not like, I mean, there was a likelihood that maybe one day he would exhibit those habits. So I looked out for his friends, and thank God, I mean, all the friends he had had similar traits to him. So those are some of the things I looked out for, and it's been good. It's been good.
Thank you. Thank you. Your pastor will be thanking you, Seriam. Finally, it's not just the pastors chasing the tithe. Patrick,
Yeah.
please Anything else to
Yeah.
add? What else should a young man look for? And I like that Belinda also shared what she looked out for. The young ladies on the call, what should they look out for? Because someone who would be a good husband. Yeah.
Right. So I echo almost most of the point that Siriam raised. There were additional things for me as I was kind of looking out for a Christian, so that one was a given. And beyond that, I wasn't just looking for someone who was just professing, oh, I'm a Christian, I go to church, I do this and that, but someone who understood what it meant to her as to her what she does and how her decisions were being driven by what she sees herself to be. The other piece was also someone who was secured, as in not because I am somebody or I have some things because that he wants to get married to me, but someone in herself that believed that he's loved and dearly loved by God. And whatever I'm bringing in, I'm supposed to kind of make that love better. So it was with Ifwa, she was, and someone who was really confident about who she is. Not someone who was like, whatever you say, I'm going for it. So I think one of the things, even at the time that, I don't know whether this particular time I said I'm looking for a wife, I had quite a number of female friends, but with Ify was someone who, she knew what she wanted and how we could partner together to establish what God has in store for us. So I think that was key. And there's a piece also of someone who was going to push me to be better, not someone who was just satisfied with, oh, you're doing great. And because of that, because I knew there was going to be a point in time that I wouldn't be great anymore and that person's still going to love me and continue to cherish me and continue to make me better. So I think that those were two additional things. So for us, we talked about our aspirations, where we wanted to be. And I think there was alignment in some cases. In cases that we weren't alignment, we then figured out how we made that match. But then I think it was, as is echoed in by Siriam, and it's mainly, do we connect? We talked a lot. We had times that we laughed about things. There are things that we had differences that we had to sort in my head as in, will I be able to live with these differences or would I not? So I think some of those things were answered and I came to the conclusion that there was going to be a lot of growth and development that comes with that. And I think that's what everyone who's married for some time knows, that the marriage is just a crucible for you to depend on Christ and God more. It just brings it to light. Until that, you feel as if, oh, I can take care of life fairly well based on how life treats you. Yeah, so those are some of the things in addition to what I've already been said.
Great, great, great. Thank you. Thank you so much. So you talked about character, attitude. Sariam, you have more to add?
Yes, I think she has.
So I just wanted to say that one thing I looked out for was a man who was hardworking. I won't lie about it. I mean, I looked out for a man who had a future. I could see prospects. I'm not gonna go beat about it was when I met Sarah, he was working as an intern in a pharmacy, but I could tell from the way he was ready to push and the things he was doing that this is a man who would work hard to support his family. And that was one thing I looked out for, and I have not regretted it. And it's also very important because people get married and it's like, I'm not doing any extras to bring any income home, and the family has to survive. So if the money is not coming, it will be a problem. So I looked out for a man who was ready to work, and I was also ready to give my 100% and support. Yes.
Great, great, great. Thank you. Thank you. Please, I hope we have our notebooks and we are taking notes. So I bend because I'm taking my notes on my on my
I didn't know
lap.
she looked out for that. I didn't know she looked out for that.
No, but it's really important. So I wanted to reiterate, both of you talked about character, attitude, talked about connection or friendship, and you talked about Patrick, you mentioned something really, really important. Someone who knows herself and is confident in herself. It's so important, young men, really. I'm not saying if you meet a sister who is so needy, has self-identity issues, definitely help that person. But be careful getting into a marriage with such a person, because if the person doesn't fully heal, sometimes it becomes suffocating for the men. A woman who's like, her all in all is you. No human being can be anybody's all in all. You will fail. So you want that a woman who is confident in herself, who knows that God, she's a valuable person, God loves her. It gives you breathing space. Because I know sometimes there are young men who like that. You're in a relationship and the woman is hanging on your every word. Literally, you're like her God. You can't be God in her life. You will disappoint her, and it will come back to as a backlash to you. So definitely a woman who knows her worth, know who she is in Christ. Definitely. You said someone who will push me, someone who will push me. I'll ask you to talk a bit more about that, because there's also a concept of I'm the man, I know what I'm doing, I'm in charge. And sometimes a woman who pushes a man can be seen as, she's too pushy, she wants to control me. How do you balance that? And you talked about areas of alignment, and there were some areas that you didn't have alignment, but then you were still able to go ahead and you have a great marriage. So maybe you can share a bit more about, I think in our previous last 2 months, we talked about know your negotiables, know your non-negotiables. For me as a believer, there's no point in even starting with someone who will say, the person is not a Christian. The person is maybe going to church, but the person is not a Christian. For me, it's not even a starter, right? Because then it comes back to the blueprint Patrick talked about. You're not looking at the same blueprint. There's a format, a blueprint that God has given us for marriage. If you are looking at that and the person is looking at something else, you're already, deviated. So it will show up very easily. It will show up very easily. Senna, I love your last point. I thank God that you you came on to add it. A man who is hardworking, please, it's a passion for me also. Ladies, by all means, please don't marry a lazy man. Because when you're in love, money may not matter so much, but bills will come. That's the reality of marriage. Marriage is not what we see Hollywood, you wake up, breakfast in bed, vacations and all of that. It's everyday decisions, everyday, responsibilities to live up to, and financial stress can strangle the love out of the marriage. So definitely, she's not saying that go looking for, my Kumasi people will say, I want someone with ice. So apparently, someone who is loaded. No, but someone, he was just an intern, but she saw the potential, and it's the attitude. He's hardworking. A man who is diligent would do well. So very great points. I just absolutely love the point. Please, if you have questions, you can put them in the chat box or go to Slido.
Yeah, sorry to cut your flow. I'm sure you're going to come to the next point, but I just want to make one point here that, again, a lot of people miss red flags because they assume that people will change. Look, that is why when people change, it's a miracle. People don't change. Okay, so the thing is that there's one reader, the one book, one author I like, his name is Simon Sinek, and one thing he said is that the way you do anything is how you do everything. All right, so if I look how you leave your desk in the office, it just tells me a lot about you. How you treat, like I was saying, how you treat people, how you do anything, how you cook, how you serve in church, how you work. Let me tell you, my first job after secondary school, I was a cleaner. I was a cleaner in a bank. The bank is still there. The bank is SGSSB. My uncle owns Cleaning Masters. And after secondary school, my father said, look, get a job. So from Teshnungo, I'll pick a car 4:30 a.m. I'll get down to my station and I walk all the way to Okanshi. So that bank is still there. Anytime you see SG Bank in Okanshi, I used to work in that bank. I was a cleaner. But after cleaning for a month, even the workers there knew I was not a normal cleaner. All right. So it's about how you do anything, and don't miss those flags. Don't miss flags about how people treat you, what they say about what you think, what they say about you. It's so important. Don't miss those red flags, because once you miss it and you get married, it becomes a divorce if you want to walk away. when you walk away out of a relationship, it's a breakup, it's anything. But now when you're walking out of a marriage, it's a legal issue. So don't miss those things. Always make sure that you stay true to your beliefs and what makes you a human being and what makes you a proper person, and don't miss those flags. Okay. Right.
Can I chime in a bit about
Please go
the
ahead.
so it's great. Then it's a very good thing looking for someone who is hardworking, someone who, from all intents and purposes, is driven. But I think one thing, I never did that. But then through my marriage, I've come to see that we have needs that gets buried in the things that we do. And we end up missing that. And the only time that it shows up is during the marriage. So for instance, we're using the whole idea of someone who is hardworking, someone who is driven to make money, to be successful. And in those cases, at times, the conversation of what led to that drive. And that drive may have been coming from maybe parents that have driven them. Maybe they're successful business people. They want their son to be successful. So then this individual is growing up looking for someone to make him feel he's significant. He gets married, and then, yes, he's still hardworking. But then he gets married to someone who wants an affectionate, and someone who's very affectionate, someone who is there for them. Yes, you can make all the money, but I want to be there. But then lo and behold, he's still driven, and he wants the person, the spouse, to tell him that, hey, you are significant, you are very important to me, and that's the fuel that drives him. In that case, the needs of the two people, one who is looking for affection, doesn't get met, and the guy who is expecting the lady to be telling him that you're doing great, you're bringing a lot of money, doesn't hear that. And then it starts with the disappointment and the hurts. So then that's where it then leads to, and it's something that I've been discovering. Actually, God is just revealing to me as our needs of significance and security. That is, am I loved no matter what? Am I doing something significant? All hinges in, no one can do that for you. And it's only through a relationship with Jesus Christ. And those things, if I'm to talk to my younger self now, is going to be asking myself those questions. What drives me? And how am I meeting those needs? Because those needs are what trickle in marriage, and people get disappointed. And for us, some of the disappointment shows up in either I'm going to stay in an unhappy marriage until hopefully one person dies and then I'm free to move on. Or some of them are courageous enough to say, no, what, I can't deal with this. I need to be happy. So I think that is one key thing as we look out for the things that we see, asking ourselves the key question, as a man going into marriage, what are my needs? And most of the time with men, we tend to, being needy feels like a demeaning thing. It's not manly.
Yeah.
Why should I say I need something? But then in reality, at the time we are saying our vows, guess what? We are expecting that this woman is going to respect me. This woman is going to say yes once I come and share my great big ideas. And Lord, he doesn't say that. And it's like, what the heck, have I been tricked? And what is really going on? So I think it now gets a little bit more to looking deeper as in where we get our sense of security or being loved, or where we get our sense of significance. And then our spouse, they have a role to play. They help fan those things to flame to make us feel whatever we are, but they can't give us that needs that we have. I think that's one important thing that I've been learning through and getting more into it, that I feel it's going to be very important to let young men know as they grow up in their journey. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Really
Fantastic,
great point.
fantastic.
Really great point. Because what you highlighted, unmet needs, counseling psychologists will tell you that that's one of the fundamental reasons for human, let me call it misbehavior, whether it's a child who is acting out, or especially in marriage, he doesn't love me, so then you also react in a negative way. Then he also feels that she doesn't respect me, so it's more like a cycle that goes on. We'll come back to the needs. We talked about, then maybe let's deal with the needs, because I was going to go back to the man as a leader of his own. But I think let's do the needs first. So what would you say, at least for a young woman, I know we are all different. Everybody has different needs. As you said, some of the needs are even based on our backgrounds, right? The homes we are coming from, you've grown up in a certain way where you're a home where you were criticized a lot, and maybe that's the source of your drive. And what you really need most is somebody to, reaffirm how valuable, how great a job you're doing. But generally, what would you say? What are some of the needs that that a man has going into marriage? So that, I mean, both something for a young man to think about, something for a young woman on the call to think about.
Okay.
Sariam, you want to go first?
Yeah. I'll say that our needs evolve. Okay. And as we grow up, what was great to us a few years ago when I was a boyfriend has changed. So maybe my first 5 years changed, and maybe now it's also changing. And we should be aware of that and not think that it's like Patrick was saying, it's a weakness. I mean, there'll be times where all you need is for someone to tell you, I love you. I mean, you'll be surprised how that means something to you. Another time you want somebody to tell you that, hey, that was great. That was great, and that time maybe it's not, you don't want to hear I love you. Or sometimes all you want to hear is someone telling that, look, you are doing well. You are pushing, because so there are some times where so many things are hanging on you, and all you wish is for somebody to recognize the fact that you are doing your best. So our needs evolve, but we have needs, and we need to know that as human beings and as men, what has happened to men, and the reason why I think men have a high mortality rate is that we keep everything inside. We are always taught they tell you to man up. That's what they tell you. Don't cry, man up, be strong. But there are times you cannot be strong for yourself. Sometimes you just need someone to just tap you on the back and say, hey, it's okay. It's okay to even fail sometimes. Okay. So you need people to help you affirm that. The need for affection is equal in men as well. Over time, we've been taught that men don't need affection. All need men to do is to be strong, to be macho. But really, men need affection. Men need love. Okay. Men need sex. A lot of it. All right. So my wife is saying the kids are in the house. You see, that's why I can't have kids around when we are talking about this sometimes. But for women, sometimes for you, it's a want, and sometimes it's okay. But for us, sometimes it's actually a physiological need. All right. Yeah, somebody's saying things like that on that side. And really, men need companionship. Okay. There's so much confusion out there, and men need peace. Maybe I may want to line up on that. Men need a lot of peace. I'm telling you, there's a lot going on in our minds. Men are paying rent. Men are taking on their whatever financial pressures, family pressures. So sometimes all we need is a lot of peace, just so that we can figure this out. And finally, as a man, you need God. I'm telling you, without God at the center, without Christ at the center, you cannot live. That's why in the beginning I talked about how God meant us to learn from how he relates with the church. If God doesn't give a lot of mercy to the church, by now we have been consumed. So how you treat your wife and how you treat your children should really align to how God treats us, including how we love each other, how we respect each other, and how we treat each other. I'll keep going back to how we treat each other, because it's at the center of how we live our lives. So like I was saying, men need companionship, men need love, men need intimacy, just like women need intimacy. And at the end of the day, you need God. You really need to have a North Star. You need to have a northern point that you constantly communicate with. Yeah. I'll ask Patrick to continue.
Sure. So I mean, I agree with almost everything you're saying. The fundamental thing is people kind of food, water, shelter. We easily see it. We need it. If you don't eat, you're going to die. But if you don't get the needs, and we've talked about the needs can go in, as is rightly said, it evolves, it grows over time. But fundamentally, if you think about it in all its intents and purpose, it narrows down to, would you love me even when I don't deserve it? Or secondly, am I significant to you? Maybe today I'm very prominent and it's easy to say that, oh, I'm a prominent person. But if I lose my job and I have nothing, would you see me to be relevant? And I think all the pieces about the things that we need as men funnels into this truth. And I think it's generally, and that's what has been baked in us. And for instance, the thing about sex, yes, I want to be the person that I'm there. I'm being relevant to you. So in as much as I want the sex for the physical enjoyment part, there's a piece that says, I am the man that you go about and say, that is my guy. So at times, in terms of the needs, is more along the lines of, am I going to get affirmed? Am I going to be loved? Even when I do the dumbest thing in the world, will the person come around and say, hey, you did something really stupid, but you know what? You are my man. So I think those things, in addition to what Siriam Kasade kind of doesn't go away. They're always there. And we are always looking for people. At times, even if you are sure that you have it in God, you're just looking for someone to tell you. A good analogy is like you could have oil in your property. You have property, you have oil there, but you don't know. But someone comes and tells you that I found oil in your property. What does it do? The person didn't put the oil there, but he did something to you that made the oil that you already had very relevant. And I think that is what our spouses does to us. We know that, yes, my spouse cannot provide my security, cannot provide my significance, but then the things he does for me, that's the thing that assures me that I am someone relevant. So I think that's the only piece that I wanted to add to that.
Okay, great.
Hi,
Thank
hello.
you. Thank you.
Sana wanted to say something.
Yes, Senna, please
hi,
go ahead.
and I would like to add from my point of view, men need a lot of respect. I mean, I've realized that over the years, I mean, it's top of the list for them. Sometimes when I see how some women talk to their husbands or relate to them, I'm like, I try to just, I don't get it. Men need a lot of respect. Look, it boosts their confidence. It makes them feel good. It makes them want to push harder when they know that you respect them and you respect their views and you don't nag about everything and you just give them the respect. And I'm telling you, it works wonders, ladies. It works magic. So give them their respect. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. And really take it from Senna, the irresistible wife's senior prefect. So I see, yes, men need respect. Yes, we talked about affirmation. And someone is also asking, well, yes, thank you for sharing your individual experiences. Are these things universal? I'll say that I think they keep hammering the fact that, okay, they're sharing their experiences, but then needs evolve. People are different. So it's also for you to introspect as a man. Don't just assume that, okay, this woman likes me. It's good to enjoy what's really important to me, and is she able to give it to me? At least is she making the effort to give it to me? I think someone talked about red flags earlier. If a woman doesn't respect you, it shows up long before. If she only listens or checks up on you, extra nice to you, at the end of the month because you're sending her money, you should also open your eyes and assess. I mean, does she love me for me, or it's because of what she's getting? So I believe a lot of introspection on what you really need. But generally, I think it said yes. Men need a lot of respect, affirmation of who they are, their efforts, and all of that. We talked about respect. And then tying it back to the man as the leader. Is it harder for this generation? Because I see, for instance, Seriam, you talked about you need peace. A woman will tell that, me too, I need peace, so because I came back from work, I'm also stressed. No, but that's the reality today, what we're dealing with. I see my parents, my grandparents' generation, 10-year gap. It's so obvious who the leader is, right? The woman is actually being married. You can see, like the man is more matured, probably has worked longer in the workforce. So generally, I think that naturally the dynamic kind of helped that generation because the woman is maybe 21, the man is sometimes even 35 or 40, right? So already, I mean, you go down on one knee to greet that man, right? Mira, you are welcome. So I think that it was
Yes.
kind of natural for the women. And because he's more experienced, you kind of look to him. What do you think? Have you dealt with this before? I'm looking for work. Can you give me guidance? Today, we are marrying our age mates. You're in class with the person, uh, how can the woman, even in that, like your kind of co-equals or colleagues or peers, how can you kind of allow the man to lead? And how can the man also lead God's kind of leadership, provide leadership even in such a marriage? Patrick,
Right.
let me start with you this
Yeah,
time.
let Patrick start off, please.
Okay, interesting. Leadership is always a very interesting thing when it comes to marriage and what it means to be.
Sorry, Patrick, let me interrupt you because one of the questions on Slido was, how do you lead a woman who won't follow and wants to do what best suits? So please tie this question also.
Sure,
Thank you.
sure. So the question comes, and that was the motive for the leadership. And most of the time, it's the motive for the leadership. We pick like as in the man having authority over the woman. So then when I say this, you have to follow. With that, if you think through it deeply, there's a selfish connotation to it. I needs to be followed and you are not following me, so then I have a problem. But then when you think through Ephesians 5, when you start talking about the responsibility of households and all that, it started off first and foremost by submit to each other. So then and once we start from there, the leadership of men is more with leading, how I see it and how I interpret it is leading our family into God, into holiness, into the things that God has called us to be. So for instance, as the man in the house, am I leading the family? Am I getting my wife to see her work? Am I leading my wife to doing her devotion, praying for the family? Am I the one providing that leadership? There are times that the leadership comes in terms of decisions about we have conflated the piece about disparaging views. Who takes the lead there, as in whose authority wins, and there are various ways of it. But at the end of the day, there's a submission to each other, and then there's a piece as in what are you leading in? You're leading the family towards God's purpose for the marriage. And that's how I kind of see it. But then once the motive is to see me as the boss, and when I say this, usually the women of today, as you said rightly, the women of today then react to it. We all bring this equal income. Why should you tell me to do this? And that's where there's a problem. But then if you think of it, it's all selfish reason why I want to lead, more so than I'm leading because I've seen a desire of yours that over time, I think I can meet. And I'm taking that leadership. I'm making decisions that will meet that need. So that's how I have interpreted it. It's been a journey. So that's what I'm saying, that I've not gotten here from day one. From the beginning, when I say, hey, let's do this. And if it's like, no, I don't think that's the direction I want to go. You get the initial like, whoa, what's going on here? But through that journey, it's come down to the fact that the leadership that is requires me putting her first. And that is a Christ-like leadership that Christ demonstrated to us whilst he was on earth. So, Sarah.
Yeah, great. Boss, thanks so much, Charlie. You're a senior man. I think that, I think it's important that sometimes we also make sure that we are talking about the right context. So we are talking about a Christian marriage here. Okay, so That's why I was saying that one of the things I looked out for was how she was. Okay, so if you look out for people, if you find people who don't treat people who can't do anything for them well, the next time they want to disrespect anybody or not to submit, you'll be the next person. I looked out for how she reported her in charge to me. And once you get to know that she cannot be a subordinate at work, red flag. Okay, so don't miss anything, all right? Especially like you're saying, where both of you are coming in at equal, maybe you may be year mates, you may be classmates, you may be from infant she could be from Gehe. You are all in the same space. I think it's important that you listen and respect your woman a lot. The more you listen and respect, it's just helps engender natural submission. Again, I think that it's great to have good examples of how people have been able to submit. So it's great to have good examples of marriages where the woman is very accomplished woman doing well, but she is submitting, and that couple is one of the, let me say that couple is maybe they are counselors or they are mentors. So for me, in everything I'm trying to do, I try to have great examples. It helps you cut the loop so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's also important for men to embrace the fact that women are independent. You know, while we keep on saying that two people marry and become one, it's important to also understand that you are two people. She has her own views about things. She's been brought up differently. She's a woman, you're a man. You have just different ways of looking at things. And as a man, it's important to understand that she has different worldviews and different perspectives about things. But once you do that and you now start showing competence, people want to be led. It's just natural that people want to be led, but they follow competent people. So when you're a man and you're clueless, you don't seem to have an idea, you're not proactive, you're not taking decisions, you are always asking her for her opinion. And I'm telling you, while we say that you have to have open conversations, at some point, you have to take a decision. Somebody has to say, this is the decision. This is where we are going. We live by the consequences. And that's why as a man, you should be somebody of prayer. You'd be somebody who has read a lot and you just know what you are doing. You just need to know how stuff works and take the initiative. Women don't want to work that hard. While they're saying that women like hardworking men, women really don't like to work hard. That's why they like hardworking men. So, so make sure that you are somebody she can respect. So ask yourself that if you were would you respect that person? And once you do that, and the person herself is a Christian, and she understands what submission is, that submission is not equal to weakness. Usually, they can find ways around that. Finally, it's also important for you to be appreciative of what your wife is also going through, and just have a spirit of gratitude, and every day thank her and say, look, baby, you are doing well. Today, for example, we woke up, her mom was not well. She had to quickly take her to the hospital. She came back. One of her classmates also had not been well. She had to go take care of her. We had this at 7 o'clock. You know, in the midst of it all, I just sent a message and said, hey, babe, you are doing great. You are doing well. It just helps her to understand that, hey, you got my back. And once you are doing those things and ticking off boxes, it's easy for her to submit. And finally, please be a provider. And again, a provider does not necessarily mean you bring more money, but try. There are couples today where the woman brings in more, but the women are submissive. Why? They can see that the man is trying. You just need to be trying, and women will not miss that cue. Again, and I'm talking about godly women. There are some women who, gosh, no matter what you do, it's just not going to work. And I'm not talking about that kind of woman. I'm just talking about the Psalm 31 woman. That's what we see, right? The woman, the Proverbs woman. I'm talking about that kind of woman.
Thank you both. So I just wanted to take this scripture, and I like that, Patrick, you start also with that it starts with submitting one to another. The Ephesians 5, very popular one. So it starts submitting one to another in the fear of God. Then it goes on, wives, submit to your own husband as to the Lord, for the husband is the head of the wife. And then it goes on to say, husbands, love your wife. And Siriam, you said something that we are talking specifically about the Christian marriage. But what I tell people that even if you're not a Christian, I believe that this model kind of ensures a peaceful and a great marriage. Why? Because we can't have any organization that doesn't have leadership. You can't, for instance, have a big organization. You're like, oh, even, organization that say, oh, we have horizontal, nobody's big boss, everybody can talk to everybody. There's a clear leader, because you can't have a formidable force without leadership. Someone in the end needs to take the lead. And I believe that this God's format gives us the best foundation for a great marriage. If not, if we get into marriage, then we have to determine, who needs to take the lead, or at every decision point, okay, who is smarter? Now, prior world class, now I'm born, maybe the lady finished with first class, you finish with the lower, so all those things come into so whose idea do we go with? So I like all that you shared. One, for the man to recognize that, one, the fact that I'm put as leader, it's God who's going to ask me account of that leadership. One, you are not a leader because you're better than her. God placed you there for order. God is the head of the Trinity, and they're all still the same God. So to recognize that, that's why it says in the fear of God, to recognize that God is the one that placed you, then he's going to ask you account of it. So to keep in mind, I think what Patrick said, that keep your selfishness out of it. Yes, it's natural that your selfish nature tries to come up, but provide leadership in a way that takes care of the family as a unit. Because somebody is saying, look, I think that women resist leadership because they feel that their interests are not being. Oh, I was just about reading, and then this thing. Edna, please, can you help me? There was a comment about women resisting leadership because their interests are not. So it's like the woman is afraid because your leadership is all about you. It's what works for you, what is convenient for you, what promotes your well-being. If the woman knows that, look, my husband is leading, but he's looking at what works for us as a family. How can I be better? How can our family get better? Usually the woman will want to follow. What else did you also mentioned something about watching how she submits in other areas. So very great points, because if she's only respectful of you, but then very rude to everybody else, disrespectful of authority, it's likely that it will show up in marriage. And women also, to say that even though the men are leaders, look out for a man who also is submissive, because that text starts with what? Submit one to another. A man who cannot submit to authority would likely not put your interests ahead of his, because it goes on to say that love your wife even as Christ loved the church. I hope that we said we're going to finish this at 8 and then go into the slide. So I'm watching the time and trying to run through. Edna, please, are there any questions in the chat? Edna, can you help us with the questions?
I think Ellen wanted to say something. Senna wanted to say something.
So I just wanted to chip in that, I mean, we have a lot of feminist groups these days. I mean, there are a lot of things being put out there, and young ladies are picking a lot of things from different groups. But look, I believe in women empowerment. I'm a strong advocate for women, I mean, getting to heights, great heights in whatever they do. But when it comes to marriage and it comes to leadership, for me, I mean, there's no argument that my husband is the head of the home. And for us, we submit to each other. I mean, whatever decisions we need to make, we would, I mean, I'm holding a pen and paper, Sarah is holding a book, we are talking, we are listing pros and cons, we are, and then at the end of the day, we take a decision based on how we've laid the issue across, and we all look at the benefits and the advantages of the disadvantages. And he goes, oh, Sarah, you know what, I think, and most times, I mean, I end up getting my wishes and everything, like, And also it's about the way the women, how we approach the men and how we even try to push our points across. So again, we should not fight our husbands or our partners for space. Everybody knows their territory. We shouldn't, in a good home, when you go in, you would know that, look, there's peace and harmony, but everybody knows where their place is. And we should not, I tell people that, look, I can lie down and have my husband put his legs on me, and I can choose to kneel down and feed my husband if I want to. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm a woman. If that's what I want to do, but somebody will see a video and go like, why is she kneeling? Look, there is the two of you. Whatever you want to do to make it work, make it work. I say that, look, in terms of leadership, there are certain things I cannot handle. When there's a plumbing issue, I can't deal with it. He's in the middle of the meeting at the office, and I'm calling my husband frantically. We have a plumbing issue. I'm in the middle of the meeting, but for me, I see him in that space that, look, you have to deal with it for me. I see a roach and I'm running. I have to call my husband screaming, come and kill a roach for me. I see him as a man, I see him as a head, and I expect certain things from him. And look, when we, over the 14 years with Serum, and it's been amazing just allowing him lead the home. And he also respects me, and he's submissive to me, and I'm submissive to him. And over the years, it's been an amazing work. So I hope I made sense with everything I said. And let's just pick Charlie alone. Let me just leave it.
But I like how you're ending it, that allow the men to lead, because really there are also some complaints that you get in either relationship or marriage, and the problem is that the woman says that he doesn't lead, or he doesn't, the way I want him to be in charge, and the man also feels that you're kind of suffocating me. You don't allow me to lead. And what would you advise someone in this situation? Because what I've seen, at least in one couple that I remember counseling, there are some women in general, we pick up on issues very quickly, especially around the home. So you may see it first, and then you prompt the man. Day one, you've not done it. Day two, you've not done it. Day three, and it takes some discipline. Oh, Sariam, we are just seeing your face. Bring beautiful Belinda, please. sorry, Sariam, don't worry. You're still a fine man. So for the woman, I've told you it's 3 days. You're not doing it. So I want to do it myself. And then that's what I kind of picked up from that session. So it's like it keeps repeating itself, and the man kind of feels, well, you do it anyway, because maybe he was planning to do it on Friday. By Wednesday, Madam has jumped in and sorted out herself. But she also feels, I told you 3 days ago, you didn't do anything about it. How can women better allow their men to lead? And I'm not just talking about practical things around the house, leading in terms of, the next 5 years, where are we going? What do we do? Direction, yeah.
Yeah, Patrick, if I could just make a point before Patrick comes in, because really I'm also learning a lot from Patrick, from his experience and all. I'll say that, look, nature abhors vacuum and marriage abhors vacuum. If there is something to be done, it's got to be done. Okay, so if something has not been done for 3 days and your wife is able to do it, she'll do it. You're even lucky if sometimes she comes to tell you that I've told you 3 days ago, you didn't do it. She's respected enough to tell you. Sometimes you just do it and that's it. But the thing is that men, growing up, I had a good balance between strong men and what we call today the coochie men we have today. Okay, so my father was a strong man, and I learned that strength from him, just being in charge. And you know that if daddy was there, you didn't need to talk to him about many things. You just knew it was done. Okay, my father and I were not great friends, but he was daddy. And as I've grown up, I've got to understand that aspect of being a man. And we shouldn't lose that in trying to become the tender, loving men we want to become today. Because as we go on and as the years evolve, we begin to want to pick up other cultures and all of that. But that part of you being proactive and you being the person who gets things done. And like I was saying, in a partnership, once things don't get done, if your wife has the ability, she'll just do it. If the fees are not paid, she will pay if she wants to. Or if something is broken and you are not getting somebody to fix it, she'll call somebody to fix it, because women generally have the ability now to do it. Some of them have the wherewithal, but you need to show that commitment and you need to show that you have a plan. And maybe my point I was going to make is, in the next 5 years, sometimes women want to know, what is the plan? What are we going to do? Are we going to stay in a rented house for another 5 years? Are we going to have our own home? If you're going to have our own home, where are we going to have it? If you're going to have a house, how are we going to finance it? Women want to just have that conversation. That's what I'm saying, that open conversation about anytime. So that's why I like taking a walk a lot with Senna, because while we are walking, we think about things. Charlie, what is the next plan? What is the next plan? Which school should our kids attend? After GSS, where are they going to go? So you need to keep that conversation open so she knows that you got a plan. Women always want to know what is going to happen, and once you can give them that plan and show leadership and show strength, that is why men always go around and say we are strong. You need to show strength and fortitude in the plan you have and the grace God has given you to be able to lead the house. The Bible didn't call you the woman's head for nothing. He called you that because you need to show strength. The Bible says that with a strong hand, God brought the Israelites out of, it's one of my favorite scriptures, that with a strong hand, with a mighty hand, he brought them out of Egypt. So for you to move anything, you need to show strength, and don't be shy of that. You need to show that, Charlie, I'm in charge here. And that's why the Bible even says that for somebody to move into another house, you need to bind a strong man there. So it's all about strong men. Hallelujah. Amen. Uncle Patrick, please. Sorry, I took some time here.
Sure. You've touched on a lot of key points which are very relevant. And in terms of leading in a home, so Sarah, Ella, your question is more of trying to lead, but it looks like you've abrogated your responsibility and the woman is taking more initiative. So then the man tends to sit back. And as men,
He laid back.
yeah, as men, and every man will tell you, I agree to this. We always ask ourselves, am I good enough? And we make mistakes. And once we drop the ball, we try to still have that whole facade that, am I still good enough? So in the rightful sense, yes, at times some things needs to get done. The woman steps up and does it. Have you asked what goes on in a man's mind, a responsible man's mind? Most of the time, it's like, yes, I mean, me can't say one yet into my yet. But then it's the feeling of disappointment. But then those conversations are not hard. Men drop the ball. At times, they take the leadership. They find themselves doing it. At times, there are things that they are being dealt with. So every time I just go, what is behind what wasn't seen? And I think that's where at times it's, yes, men has to step up. You have to, if you are doing, for instance, things related to things that needs to be done that you're being told to do, you have no excuse of not doing it. You have to do it. But then if you drop the ball, can we have compassion? Can we have mercy? Can we just have grace and just help the person? Because at times we all need help. So I think those are the pieces that as men, most men want to know that, yes, I dropped the ball, but am I still good enough? But at times it goes over time and it's like, no, I don't think you're good enough. I think I can get things done. And over time, then it becomes, okay, then I'm not going to do anything. So there's a lot of conversations that needs to happen, even if the thing gets done. So then it's corrected rather than, oh, if you're not doing, I'm going to get done. And that it quells. And what happens over time, there are walls that are built and now there's no communication, nothing happens, nothing gets shared. So the whole relationship that we are in is way bigger than we doing things for each other. It's fanning ourselves into flame. So then it's a ministry. That I always see that marriage is a ministry. So if you are in the church and that you're ministering in the marriage environment, all you're doing is, how can I bring the best of this person out for both sides. And that's the woman's more so than if you're not doing, I'm going to do it. And then you can go bend the ocean. So those are things that I've learned over the year. I'm still learning as to whether that's the right approach. I hope my wife was on this call. She's also going to have an opinion about that. But then that is something that happens and we all grow from it. And but ultimately, men are supposed to, I agree with Sirian's point, we are supposed to lead. We are supposed to make the tough decisions. After back and forth, my wife does that a lot. We debate about things, and then later on it's like, my suggestion, they say. So he it's at the end of the day, the final call comes down to me. And that is a good thing that I think wives empower their men to lead, as in after everything, let's decide and let's move on. Rather than you're not making a decision, so I'll take over.
Okay, great.
Yes,
Thank you both. Thank you both. Senna, you want to add? Please go ahead.
Yes, I just want to add that, I mean, the basic definition of leadership, which is influencing and guiding people towards a goal or a vision. So like you said, one, the man should have a vision and he should lead the wife towards that vision. And leadership cannot take place without communication. If there's the basis of it is communication. If you are not talking, so like the example they gave that I asked you to do something 1, 2, 3 days, you didn't do it. I've taken the initiative, I've done it myself. But as a woman, after doing it, if we really want to help our spouses, talk to your husband. Let's say, I expected you to do this and you didn't do it. Or maybe he had genuine reasons. So, I mean, you talk about, oh, babe, I'm sorry. Okay, I didn't mean to. I think next time. And if you want to help the man, prompt him. Oh, babe, you're supposed to do this. You're supposed to do that. We shouldn't just leave it. Okay, he didn't do it and that's it. That's why we are here to support. We are women. We are here to support. We are here to make our men great leaders. We are the supporters. He is a leader. So if we notice that something is not being done right, the baseline is have an open conversation about everything. And look, over the years, I've realized that talking about everything and our hurts, our pains, whatever we are feeling has really helped our relationship. Talking and everybody letting it out, it's really helpful. When you shut down and you don't say anything and you get things done, over time, everything will break down and it wouldn't work. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Seriously, this conversation, I think we're just getting to the sweetest part. But thank you all so much. And there are some really important comments in the chat. Priscilla Abedu, you're giving us really great points. Thank you. So I'll read them out. So I think the basis of it is communicate. If you cannot do something, tell your spouse. And Senna, I like how you ended that. If there's a gap, talk about it. Because it could be genuinely the man, he was overworked, just talk about it. And I think it's good for the men. One of the things I picked up from Seriam's conversation was create a system where you talk often about your plans. Because then if you don't talk to the woman, she doesn't even know that you're thinking about ABC. So then in the end, she has to. Women need a lot of security, want to be secured. So in order to make sure she's secured, she may start taking her own plans because she thinks, okay, he's not doing anything about it. He's not planning anything for a family home or anything, but maybe you're doing that. So I think something that young couples can take, I mean, as a man, create avenues to talk about your future, your vision, what's going on, and then provide that leadership, what's going on with the school, with the education, with the kids. Priscilla says, I think often women resist this leadership when they feel their interests or views aren't taken or considered. Husbands must learn to consider and acknowledge their wives, especially in decision making. In the New Testament, God has given both men and women an assignment. So husbands must help their wives to also accomplish their God-given assignment. They must not leave their wives behind. Husbands must also lead by example. This is very important, especially in our day to day. Thank you. This is more than 2 cents. Thank you for sharing. She says also there are also some men who don't lead at all. They have abdicated their roles and must sit up. Wives actually yearn for leadership. So young men, don't be afraid. Lead. And I want to say that traditionally, for a lot of our homes, leadership meant that daddy paid the fees, he paid the rent, and that's about it. But it's more than that. It's what's the plan for this family? Priscilla mentioned something that, the woman also has an assignment. She also has to give an account of her life to God. And I can tell you that a woman would follow a man who is always looking out for and say that, look, I've seen this in you. What can I do to help you develop it? I saw this program, I think, trying to also develop and lead your wife to become a better person. So leadership, it's so important. Patrick talked about difficult decisions. Don't allow your woman, a lot of women today, because of education and all of that, we've learned skills, how to plan, strategize, deal with tough decisions and all that. But we do it because we have to do it. Like Sarah said, we don't really want to stress ourselves like that too. Or, we like to take care of the family and all of that, but we don't really want to stress ourselves like that. This mortgage calculations up and down in my head. It's not really, if I have to do it, I'll do it. But, so when you step up and let her feel secured enough that, okay, I'll take care of it, it helps. So please prepare yourselves, learn, apply yourselves to be able to lead. I really think that we need to continue this. We have 3 minutes. I don't like closing programs late. On leadership and following in marriage, I think it's important to know and acknowledge our partner's personality type and experience. So with this, a lot of frictions and conflict will be avoided. Great point. Know your personality types and know what your tendencies are. It helps a lot. Leadership is all about vision. I'm sure a woman will allow herself to be led freely when she feels secure. That's great. When a man creates a sense of security in his partner, the wife will freely allow herself to be led. Priscilla says, single ladies, choose wisely or choose a man you can submit to. It's very important. I like the communication. Also for Ato, thank you. Why didn't the man get it done? He should communicate. I think we'll communicate on this. I don't know if we should continue this conversation in the next session, because really I've just tackled one Slido question, which was about the woman who doesn't want to be led. In closing, I think let me take one of them. It says, what are healthy boundaries in marriage and how do we establish them? So I'll add on another. Should there even be boundaries in marriage? Somebody was, should there even be boundaries in marriage? And the person is asking, what are healthy boundaries in marriage and how do we establish them? Short answers from both of you, please.
Well, maybe I could just speak because I'll let Patrick have the last say. It's important for you to know. No, yesterday I was discussing with my wife that boundaries. And are there supposed to be boundaries in marriage? Yes, I think there's supposed to be boundaries in marriage. Like I was saying, these boundaries are not things that, I'm not talking necessarily about things that cut us, but it's important for us to respect the individuality of the people in the marriage. While we are two people who are very open about everything, it's also good to respect the fact that the other person also has his own vision for his life. He has his own plans. He has things he likes and things you may not like. Okay. So don't force him to like food you want. Don't force him to like food you like at your mother's house. No, I don't like something. I don't like it. It's my space. It's important to have your own. For example, Senna and I, and I'm not by this, I'm not saying anything anybody should do exactly the same. We don't have a joint account. We don't have a joint account, but we are very, very transparent about how much we have. Okay. If I want her card, if she wants my card, anytime we go anywhere, she takes my card, she knows my PIN, there's no issue. But she can't take my money without telling me. I won't take her money without telling. It's just boundaries. Okay. The fact that we are just two people together, but we cannot, there are some friends she knows almost all my friends, but she should also understand one day that there'll be a friend of mine you don't know, and just trust the fact that it's a clean relationship. There's some friends she has. There's some days she wants to go out with her girlfriend. I say, go spend some time with your friend. Don't be in the house every day, because you are you. You have your own. You are you first before you're my wife. Okay, so or you are you first before you're my husband, and it's important for couples to actually encourage that. Okay, that it's not everything you need to meddle in. I don't, and that's my opinion. Again, like I'm saying, yeah, it's something that has worked for us, but it's great for your wife to have a girlfriend, and sometimes you just go to spend some time with them. And that is that it just gives variety. It's just having a lot of trust and knowing that both of you are going to be responsible with that independence you have, but respect the fact that you are independent people who are also living together under the same roof and trying to build one united front. But don't kill that independence you have. You shouldn't kill it off. Okay, and that's my opinion. Yeah.
Okay, so that's you've covered a lot of ground there, Sarah. So I'll say boundaries are needed. Whether it's you sit down, go for a get out and ride it or whatever it is needed, and it's needed for several reasons. It's needed to really set the right expectations, and when the expectations aren't met, a communication is facilitated to understand. We agree that. And for us, and myself and Info, it's just she's not here to kind of, but then there are a few of them that we've not kind of gotten a piece of paper and written it down and signed on it or anything. But then things like there's nothing like physical abuse or emotional abuse or using certain words. It can be heated, but we are civil about it. At the end of the day,
Yeah, but you
if
don't go
there's a
beyond that.
disagreement, anytime we have disagreements, we know where we are and we give ourselves time to process it. And there is a thing about returning to it to get to it. We have to agree to disagree. This is where we are. We don't agree. But then if a decision needs to be taken, it has to be taken. Another piece is the use of technology. We don't go out eating with phones on the table, phones away. If I'm having conversations with Ifwa and my phone will be, unless it's any of our daughters that is out, that is calling to be picked, no matter how it is, we have to complete the conversation before we get to the phone. And that communicates that at this point in time, you are the most important thing that it is. So we've not written it down anywhere, but then I could be talking to her, maybe I just go over to her office and we are talking about something, my phone will be ringing, I will ignore it because I know what message it conveys if I pick a call and say, hold on, I need to pick this call. Either I'll have to tell her that I'm expecting a call, so that if it comes, I'll have to pick it. That preempts it. Another thing with finances, it's one thing I think we've been blessed with. We've not had any financial squabbles. We keep our money together and it's worked for us. There are things we've tweaked over the years about keeping money together that, and I think with boundaries, it's not like hard, firm, restrictive sort of a thing. That it defeats the purpose. If it doesn't work for us, it doesn't work. And we'll have to make changes to it. But I think since we are talking to young men who are now getting into marriage, I want to kind of bring out some point. How do you think about this? As of now, I would say young men start thinking about what your needs are, what matters to you. What are the things? Most of the time, people are going out, and maybe there's the lady she's going out with is very abusive in her words, or she says things that are very uncouth. But then, because she's going out, their girlfriend, no, I'm fine, you worry, I want to be. And I think Siriam kind of alluded to it. No one changes. It's at times I say it's like, oh, I'm a Christian. Why am I saying no one changes? Like, people, even if they change, you don't own the timetable when they are going to change. So you go into it knowing what you have is what you have. So then for young men now, start setting your boundaries for you. And once the lady comes in, you look at both of them, and the ones that you feel wouldn't work because of the union that I'm getting in, those are talked about. And you have to agree that this boundary, I'm going to let it down. At the end of the day, these are all things you are saying within the bigger boundaries of we have the Bible that kind of shapes us, and these are more the non-negotiables, which it's the world doesn't end, we don't sin by breaking this. These are more personal preferences. So I think those are the things that I'd say, young men, before you get married, think about what matters to you now. Not when 5 years into the marriage, it's like, yeah, me crying, no cooking crying, I'm in pet, but my dean. So that's the only thing that I had to what the great points that Sirian made.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I think we'll come back to this boundary question because if I want to take what's in the chat, I'm sure we'll end up going another 10, 15 minutes. So thank you all so much for joining. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Senna, Sayram. Thank you. Your final thoughts. Senna, please, final thoughts to young women on the call, young wives, early young wives, and then about to be married, single ladies, final thoughts.
Yes, for my final thoughts, I think I was telling Sarah the other time that some of the problems that come up in marriage, when I hear about it, I always ask, are we really Christians or we are church goers? Because for some of the issues, if we are born again Christians, they should not be issues. So before we go out to choose a partner, please check if the person is a Christian or a church goer. It helps because, I mean, somebody could just be a church goer and not a Christian because it really, Elom, it helps to avert a lot of issues. Because if we have the basic understanding of the Bible, basic principles of love, of kindness, of forgiveness, we would, I mean, it shouldn't be difficult for us to resolve issues and move on. So what I would like to say is that marry a Christian. The man or the woman, make sure that you marry a Christian and someone who understands you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Right.
you. Serum to young men.
Yeah.
Final one.
To young, I'll say that marriage is a beautiful, honorable thing. But as you can see, there are so many facets and so many dimensions of marriage. And it requires you to apply yourself, be willing to learn. Like I always say, have great examples, keep Jesus at the center, be very selfless. Once selfishness comes in, you are on the way to destruction. But join forums like this, try and get to learn from other people, have conversations, keep everything very transparent. Somebody was asking that, are you saying, is Sarah stressing girlfriend for his wife and that means that you don't have male friends? No, actually some of our very close friends are people we've both dated. Some of Senna's close friends are people are dated back, and some of people who have really supported us are people Senna dated. It has nothing to do with that. It's just respecting the fact that both of us are going to be responsible with those relationships. Okay. But at the end of the day, marriage is a beautiful thing. I think that I would marry Senna the same way if I came back, and I would encourage everyone to find somebody you will want to spend your life with and build a strong relationship and a strong marriage together. And once again, thanks for the opportunity, and we hope that we've been able to share some important nuggets with you. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you both. Thank you both. Patrick, final words, please.
Okay. I was gonna say this is it's like since I'm going to fancy school, I'm going to say to get a grade, we'll go to fancy school. We are not boy. Mobile, but anyway.
Oh, you're in a fancy film?
Yeah, I went to fancy film. So,
oh, Charlie. Fantastic.
So I'd say final words for a young man. It's fundamentally, I think I started this thing as in turning to God, to first understand your needs. Don't shove it under the dustbin. Oh yeah, I'm good. I'm going to find your needs and make sure that those needs are coming from a relationship with Christ. And I think Senna kind of alluded to that. Not going to church. First, at this point, you're not married. It's you. So do you have that vibrant relationship with Christ that you feel secured, that he's loved you even when he didn't deserve it, and you are doing significant work because he's created good works for you to do way in advance? I think that's the first thing that any Christian man with aspiration of getting married should be thinking about. So you go into marriage with this mindset of how can I minister, or how can I bring the best out of this lady? So I'm going in to know her needs. And then once I get to know her needs, I'm going to see how best I can be there. I can meet those needs. And in some cases, you will see the needs, you're going to do everything, and you're going to get a bad response to that. That is okay. At the end of the day, you are accomplishing what you've been called to do in that marriage. And I allude to what Sarah is saying. Marriage, in as much as it has its challenges and difficulties, it's a very beautiful thing. I couldn't have grown this much in my Christian life without being married to Eva. And she kind of pushing me, she kind of bringing the best out of me. And for that reason, I'd say it's a great thing. Don't be scared of it. Just trust God and let him lead you. It's a great thing to be part of. And
Thank you.
thanks,
Thank
Alon,
you.
for inviting
Thank
me and being part of this discussion. This discussions always kind of spurs us to continue to be better.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. Great, 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 great session. So I think lots of insights to pick there. Start with you. Start with you. The quality of your marriage will depend on the quality of the two people in there. So prepare yourself to be a great husband and find a great partner. God bless you. Thank you to our panelists. We'll continue our session next Sunday. We'll communicate. We're going to do the becoming a great father, but there are still a lot of questions regarding this first session. So I think we may end up continuing. We'll communicate with everyone. So thank you once again. This is Propel Ladies. Please follow us, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. That way you're updated with our programs. We have another series coming up, a career series. Details will come out shortly for next month. So next week, Sunday, same time, same Zoom meeting link. Hope to see you all here. Thank you. Thank you. If your question is unanswered, we'll treat it next Sunday. Thank you. God bless you. Shall we pray? Thank you, Lord, for this session. Thank you for the lessons. Help us to be able to put it into practice. And for everyone who is confused about a life partner, we ask that clarity will come. If anyone is in a wrong relationship, Lord, give them the wisdom to be able to make a right decision before it's too late. And for marriages that are suffering, we pray that these insights will bring renewal, will bring refreshment, will bring your peace. In Jesus' name we have prayed. Amen. Amen. Have a blessed week.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.